First, I want to acknowledge, I said in the email to all of you, this was Michael's idea that we mutated a little bit. He sent me a picture when this country used to be more civilized. That is Obama, George Bush, George W. Bush, Jimmy Carter, and Bill Clinton in the White House all together, smiling and talking. And he just said, the text says, why not in SCI-Arc? That's all he said to me.
Yeah.
And then I thought, this is a great idea. Not many schools have that luxury that, with the exception of Ray Kappe, who passed away, all I'm the current director, previous director, incoming director, we cannot be. Also, we are one of the few schools that every director has been a designer. That we don't have professional academics or professional bureaucrats that get to run the institution, so I think those are interesting things. And the idea was as a way to welcome Winka, but more important than that, to show that how unique we are in having that. And Neil is not teaching SCI-Arc anymore, but he comes often enough that he's still part of it. And the two of you still teach.
I have a history of stealing him.
Yes. And
Good.
after a year of sabbatical, I will come back and teach.
Yeah.
Yeah, after a year, I come back and teach. So, not many institutions can have that ability, that collective memory. And I think it's a nice way to welcome Winka, which I think is, like I like to say, we're all different animals, but we're all from the same jungle, or at least from the same part of the jungle, which is even better. So, as I put to some of you, the idea is informal conversation. I just thought two basic things that I think can get us going for an hour, no problem, which is what makes SCI-Arc interesting, unique, different eras, what it means in leadership, how the school mutate, whatever. So.
No, it's an interesting question because, I obviously asked that myself, and having said no so many times before I became chair, I guess the biggest surprise to me, for myself, when I became chair was that I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed instigating change, I enjoyed creating a platform for discussion, I enjoyed being open source, having a conference every year, publishing, creating havoc a little bit by just making every part of architecture speculative, including structures and history theory, and but doing it across the board, not just design. I just love the whole thing. I saw it as one big project, which is not unsimilar to a building, I would say.
Yeah.
You need to kind of make the foundation, get the concept going, and then just let it play out, essentially, with a gazillion amount of people. And I think, I had observed as an outsider, I could say, at Penn, all these faculty meetings where the chair was sitting there and it was a monologue. And everyone was just sitting there like spitting fire at this poor person, saying nothing. And then when they said something, it was of such a low academic level that I was like, 4-year-olds, why? So I demanded participation without demanding it. But the meetings, the faculty meetings, were a huge discussion about all kinds of stuff. And we moved through things really fast. And they didn't even realize it, how many decisions they actually took themselves. And I never took any decision. I just made the platform for the decision. And somehow they always took the right decisions. It was amazing.
What is the trick for leadership? And like he told me, look, the job of a dean or a chair or director, whatever it is you create a condition for the school to have 3 or 4 or 5 ideology points of view about architecture, and you make them fight for it, and you let them fight for the soul of the school, and you don't let anybody win. And you keep everybody. And that was interesting. I think SCI-Arc was always like that. So I didn't have to do much on that front. But there was an
intention. Not by intention.
Not by intention, but
the opposite.
I get it. But it's one of the things we always talk about, either when faculty, we hire faculty, renew, and they always ask me, what do you want? And I said, look, I just want you to be the most extreme version of yourself. I want to explore your most deep ideas, I don't like too much radical experimentation, because to me that means like we don't know what we're doing, and I personally think we know what we do. So I like speculation more than experimentation by now. But I always say that, be the most extreme version of who you want to be.
this, but when that moment when Ray and you and the students said we're going to start our own school, you could ask, well, is it just bureaucracy pushing me to do that, or were you repressed at the level of the kind of work that you wanted to do? Now those things go together, right? And you can ask the same thing always about SCI-Arc.
The thing that I still with me today, and I use it, and I think about it in a lot of different situations, is when there's an obstacle and there's resistance, you can decide whether or not you want to somehow change whatever is creating that resistance, or you can step aside and do what you wanted to do after you would change that resistance. And that's what we did. You know, when we were talking about all the ways we can get even, you know, how we could change somebody's minds, and then we said, wow, do we really want to spend time doing that, or do we want to spend 100% of our time playing, having fun, being creative? And I don't know, it seemed to have, like, I don't even know who said it, but when we said, let's start our own school, and Ray said, yeah, that's a great idea. What I still remember to this day, and it's visceral, was this incredible weight and lightness. I became weightless for a nanosecond at the thought of being focused. I didn't even think that I only had a year left to get my degree. Didn't matter. And we were just off and running. It was just like incredible energy. You know, Ray likes to say there was 100, there was 15 that actually helped build the school in the beginning, then 8 first class. But it was just stepping outside the system, and instead of trying to change it from within the system, you basically set a new model.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we did for many years. And I think as we've talked about a lot of times, everyone else is caught up, and now it's time for us to figure out what's the next move.
You're not wrong, to re-quote you.
Exactly.
But, I mean, I can look at this from a distance. And it's funny, when I had the job, we just did stuff. And I remember at one point, there was no school. Literally, Kappe and Ian came to me and said, it's gone. There's no money, you owe $2 million, you got no building, you got no... I mean, which is interesting, juxtaposing, you know, Hernán says enrollment's down. That's better than enrollment 0. So the frame of reference is so different from year to year, and you got a whole different thing now. And I'm not sure anybody knows how to...
Yeah, no, that's totally, I think that's very right, because I mean, I started at Penn when it was really down. It had 5 or 6 years of interim chairs. It was a ginormous mess. I had 1.5 person staff. And my department is the size of this school, right? Because I have MSDs, PhD, undergrad, grad. And so the whole same thing. And I remember thinking, well, let's see what's going on. And to my surprise, we had, I mean, you know, for me, this is in a way such a positive change, because I know so many things here are already of this age. When I started looking at the curriculum at Penn, this is, we want to start 2023, no, sorry, 2013. I looked at the curriculum and it looked like 1800. We had structures classes that were so high. So, which is an interesting thing to find out, you know, because you look at the curriculum and you're like, wow, and you realize if someone's an academic, they don't know. They don't know where the current practice is and where it's going, you know, and that is not their level of interest. So they had good education, just not of the right time.
Michael and I had so many conversations about the waxing and waning of architecture, like, oh, there's too much furniture going on, too much painting going on, architecture needs to get, you know, reinserted. Then it got re-centralized and maybe made banal, and we want more, you know, alternative. Don't you feel like that's also part of the history of the school? And to a certain extent, that's what's the same then as it is now, even though the exquisite corpse game is
Yeah.
being played out and things are completely
Yeah,
different.
but to me, I mean, in relation, trying to put together all the thing that we're shooting in every direction is, to me, there are always two or three things which I always struggle with the idea. One thing I love about architecture in relation to culture, leadership, whatever, is architecture of the creative disciplines, I would say, is the one that is the slowest, just by nature. It takes time. To me, that's a virtue, it's not a problem, because you can keep, you're going back and you keep looking at what is works, doesn't work, and so on. I was joking, going back to the jungle, it's the elephant. It moves slower, but it's smart, it's heavy. When it's there, the presence is.
Yeah.
So that's part of, to me, what is interesting, and to me, it's one of the fundamental struggles that I deal in recent times, and I think it's only part of one of the challenges for you, is we live in a culture of immediate satisfaction, working in a discipline and a profession that is nothing but immediate. It's much more, and how to navigate those two speeds. So to me, it's okay that sometimes we deviate, and the school allows of deviation, because eventually it comes back, because the weight of it and is too deep, and I think that's, to me, is part of the challenge. Why I think when everybody's overreact to the latest thing, because even if we try to do that, architecture doesn't have the tools to operate at that speed, and to me that's a great thing about architecture. It's not a problem for it. There is this joke that Steve Rice always says, everything is within walking distance if you have the time. You know what I mean? So if you have the time, you can walk everywhere. It's just a matter of time. And to me, that always has been the interesting challenge to navigate. Okay, what makes sense, what doesn't make? What thing we need to not overreact, but which one we need to absorb right away? And that, to me, always been the beauty of outside, in pragmatic terms too, that we are nimble, we can try things. Doesn't work, you abandon it, you bring a new one, and so on. I always give the example, you still were the director. A couple of faculty had the idea to have a robot house. Yes, 6 months, the robot house is up and running. Any other institution takes 3, 4, 5 years.
It's interesting.
So there is something about that, but again, you can play the fast speed and the slow speed at the same time, and to me that's always one of which one is the right one.
But I think we used to go from slow speed hoping to get it to fast. I think now, what I've discovered in the last few years with the students that I have, is discovering that you can actually take their interests that are fast and show them the architectural equivalent and take them back into architecture.
Yeah.
And let them see that there is an architectural equivalent to whatever they're interested in. It could be music, it could be fashion, it could be, you know.
But the question is that a model that sort of intellectually egalitarian you could be?
It's not about, it's about being, Eric, it's not about some philosophical point of view.
Sure.
It's about what the student, what the context is from the human point of view right now. And what you think students want to know and what I used to think students want to know isn't necessarily what they want to know.
You start to think
The
about
thesis now, it's interesting, and then maybe this is not
But-
your way. I hate it, it's an antique, it's an anachronism, outdated, therefore fix it.
Thesis is outdated, you're saying?
No. I
Hernán
was
said that.
complaining when I came in my young.
See,
in
you
my
guys
young-
are focused on the project.
And
What
in my
thesis-
young days,
from the
I
very
hated
beginning-
thesis because they were doing artistic vocational. I hate it.
Okay.
So I expressed that.
It was
Okay.
dead.
But at an
Go and fix it.
It was
But at a
gone.
bigger level,
You put it
level, the thesis
And
was
that's what
just
it is
another
today.
way to bring
Still,
people from
and
outside the school
Yes,
here,
abs-
because I always felt that we were able to do things other institutions weren't able to do because we
Exactly.
didn't have this big structure above us.
Yeah.
We were open source, nothing proprietary here. To show what's possible, people
Yeah.
go back home and they spread the joy.
We
Yeah.
have
And that's
that.
really what Thesis has always been. Not only Thesis, all of the ways we can bring people here.
Yeah.
All of the things, people used to say that we were doing radical things, we were experimental, we were this, we were that. And as they were saying it, they were trying to do the same.
It's a different place. Keep growing, keep changing, and also the world around us make it challenging.
One final thing I think that I've known all these years, and I can speak from experience, is that through all of the changes, the one thing that always remains the same, there's something about this is an attractor of people that are good people.
Mhm.
The students, faculty, not saying that we don't have,
Misfit toys of the world unite in SCI-Arc.
but just say fundamentally good people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Sincere
it's so
in
much
playing.
fun walking around this place and just stopping and having conversations with people. And then,
Yeah.
you know, my lazy side says, oh, I don't have to read those books now.
Yeah, no,
It's just-
I always said in orientation on that, and it's coming, is this is school by fanatics for fanatics.
Yeah.
And with all the good and bad that comes with that, as we know about being
Yeah.
a fanatic. But it's not the place for, I mean, you have to be all in.
Rigorous,
You
yeah.
have to be all in.
I think it's a rigorous thing. You know, you can't do things off. Architecture doesn't exist when you do it off. You have to do everything to the same degree. Otherwise, it just doesn't come good.
You know, you have experience, and today, given everything about the world and leaders and so forth, it's probably better to have experience than not have experience. I couldn't have done the job, you know, without you obviously helping me, you know, so many things. But I can remember a conversation, you know, it's like day
Yeah.
one. Michael, I don't really know what I'm doing. And he looked at me and he goes, you're going to figure it out. So I hope you can find ways in which you can be forced to figure things out.
Yeah.
And that you don't know what you're doing.
That's, you know,
Oh, I feel that like that every
I'm
day.
sure you're going to find them because SCI-Arc is too complex
Yeah.
to sort of say I've
Oh,
seen it
don't
all.
worry. Don't worry.
Don't you think?
yeah, it is. It's very complex. But I think if there's a couple of things. One is, I mean, I got a kind of X-ray vision. I can see what lake capacities people have, and I know that it's whatever the context is brings out those lake capacities. So as complex as this place is, it's going to be, you're going to recognize, it's going to be familiar to you.
Mhm.
You know, not in the conventional way. And you know how to improvise. I think that's you got to, you know, I think all the directors had to have a capacity to improvise. And that's, if you don't, then that means you're going to be basically doing the same thing over and over and over again. How to keep that as part of your line, so that the experience doesn't get in the way
Exactly.
of that, you know. And I got kind of, there's something that precedes confidence,
Yeah.
having you do this. Last year I decided I wanted to like become hip again, so I'm teaching 1A.
I asked him to teach first semester
He
undergrad.
says, you think, would you like to teach 1A? And I said, what? And it's like having 50 grandkids, you know. And you know, like the first, you know, question is like, so is that a pencil? I go, yeah, that's a pencil.
How amazing is that
Wow,
for these kids to
1A.
have you? That is, but that is the hardest teaching. So
Yes.
it
besides
does
the thing-
deserve
well,
the person with the
No,
most.
I asked him and Eric to teach early years undergraduate.
Yeah.
And both of you were resistant,
Last
but
year-
then both came, this was great.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
so, because they're fearless, those kids. They absorb everything like little teeny
Oh, they do.
sponges.
I put
Yeah.
last year when I did 1A, I put a chair in the studio and just sat there, didn't say anything. And then somebody come over and say, "Can I ask you a question?" I go, "Sure." And then they ask me a question, "What is life?" You know. And then you start talking, and then others start. And then every week I would do that for an hour, and they would just come up and just have conversations.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was totally great.
Okay,
Okay.
this is
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Thank you, especially Neil, that you came all the way.
Oh my
Especially
God,
to
it means
this.
so much.
Yeah. Are you coming tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be
Great.
here tomorrow.